all me. I see what it was.
What? Okay, what's up, y'all? Eric Mulger here. For those of you who are my audience with Code Red Conversations, thanks for joining me. Once again, after all the technical difficulties, but we managed to work them out. I'm not Corey Minor. Actually, I think I'm a little better looking than he is, but we do have matching bald heads, so hopefully that'll make y'all feel at home. But don't worry, have no fear. He'll be on shortly. I'm actually interviewing him as a part of my show. His I've really appreciated his ministry with the Smart Christian channel. I found it to be a blessing for me and my family. And over the years, over the time he's been doing this, over the last couple of years or so, I've really been intrigued by his background, his testimony. So I wanted to have him on and just have a little conversation about his background. We have uniquely similar backgrounds. So without further ado, let me introduce my main man, Corey Minor from the Smart Christian channel.
The better looking bald head guy. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
I'm sure that's subjective, and I'm sure that's a matter of opinion, but we'll
Well,
debate
I'm
that
pretty
another
sure
day.
my wife would agree with me. So there we go.
And mine would with me as well. So, but hey, it's all good. It's all good. How you
Hey,
doing today, brother?
how messed up would it be if after the show one of our wives said, "Now, honey, I think."
That would be really, really messed up.
Yeah, time for some counseling, right?
And no doubt, we got some problem. We'd all have something to work out if that was the case. But anyway, man, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm doing wonderful. I've kind of had a relaxing day. I got a bunch to do this evening. No, I got a little bit to do this evening, but a whole lot to do tomorrow. So I'm getting a whole lot of relaxation in today. So I'm doing
That's
wonderful.
good. That's good. That's good. Yeah, the reason I wanted to sit down and chat with you, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, was that, man, how long have you been doing the Smart Christian channel? How long have you been doing your YouTube channel?
Let's see. Someone asked me this 2 days ago about the channel. When did the first video was at the very end of 2020. So really 2 years. Two
Okay.
years.
Okay.
And it I will say that I'm pleased with how the channel has gone. I had no idea. I didn't know anything about YouTube. I knew that YouTube existed, but I didn't
Right.
know that people did videos like this. Wait a second. I messed up. Everybody knows I got to put on the right glasses. I got to put on the right glasses so I can.
You got like a drawer full like Fred Stanford? Is that what you got going on over there?
I got. Well, you know what? Here's the problem. I have a third pair. I've gone to get glasses, and each time the glasses weren't the right prescription, and so I'm using these glasses. And I've got these other glasses. These glasses are the ones that I had in prison. I see better out of them, except for yesterday when I couldn't see a thing. I don't know what it was. But then I've got these other glasses. This is one of them that I got, and I can't see anything. I just gotten them. I put it on my face while I was in the car, and I couldn't see anything. So how I got home without wrecking, I don't know, but I couldn't see a thing with these glasses. I can see without glasses, but I can't read as well, like the wording and so forth. So, but anyway, but about 2 years ago, and it has gone better than I thought it would have gone.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that YouTube was just a place to go watch, exercise videos or kids doing funny stuff or cat videos, things like that. I wanted to have, and as a matter of fact, we're going to unveil it in about a week or two, a place where people can go and get good sound biblical teaching.
Right.
I also wanted to, because of the nature of YouTube, also offer commentary and things like that as well. And so things started going, like I said, better than I thought they would go. I think we got to, when did we hit 1,000 subscribers? I think 1,000 sometime in July of 20. So after 6-7 months, and then I don't know, I can't remember. I think we got to 30,000 at the end of 21, and so another 50,000 or approximately 50,000 in this year. So it has gone relatively well. It comes with a lot. people who don't like you even more. The larger the channel gets, which is fine. I have no problem with the dislikes and so forth, as long as it provides an opportunity to kind of just teach a little bit, or to make my point or my case known, and then hear other sides as well. So, but just been 2 years though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, when I was doing a little search, I pulled you up because I was looking for a picture because we were trying to work on a thumbnail for this
Hmm.
episode here. And man, first things that pop up, Corey Miner's a false prophet, false teacher. You get all that nonsense. But hey, man, when it's all said and done, like you said, when you get a bigger
Hmm.
platform and more people start to hear about you, it just exposes you to more people, exposes you, unfortunately, to more foolishness. And it's just part of the territory, man.
Yeah, it is. And
Yeah.
so I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. I don't, it doesn't bother me. Why is how come my name isn't on here? That's crazy. I'm trying to put my name on here. I can't even add my own name to this thing. This is crazy. But anyway, maybe if I hit enter. Okay, whatever. It won't do it.
Right. Yeah, there's always something going on. Yeah, that intro, man, that was just horrific. I mean, it was just a mess over there, but
I
he
had
still
a
got people
line to
watching.
this.
So.
I had a line to this iPad running to the iPad. For you all, for those of you who wonder what's happening, this is showing on both of our channels, and I've got this other computer charging up to my main computer, and so I'm wondering, what is this sound? Why in the world? And I looked over. I've got
Looping.
a cord, and so whatever's playing on this is going to run through the system, and so that's what that was. I could not figure this out, but anyway, it's settled now. It's like
So basically, it was you and it wasn't me, is what you're
no, it
saying.
was you. It was my fault, but it was my fault, but you were the blame. So that's how that works.
Right. Oh, dang. All right, brother. So, yeah, let's just jump into the meat of all this, man. For those on here who may not be familiar with your background, just tell us a little bit more about your upbringing. Were
Um,
you raised in the church? No, yes or no,
no,
whatever you want to go into detail on.
no, we did. We my mother and her siblings, they were raised in the church. My grandfather was an elder in the church, I believe. I don't know, I wasn't there, so but they all went to church. My mother was pretty rebellious. She was if you want to talk about the black sheep of the family, it was her, and really not so much her because I have a couple of aunts and uncles who were kind of wild too, but she led the way. She's something else.
Mm,
Um, my life started off this way. When I was born, the night that I was born, there were drugs in my system because my mother used drugs and used drugs a lot. Now she was functional. She wasn't, some crackhead running around on the street, looking for a hit, this and there. No,
hmm
but she used drugs, and I was her last child, and so the night that I was born was the night that I almost died because I had drugs in my system. I didn't leave. I was born on the 20th of September. I didn't leave the hospital till the 30th, the 20th or 30th, and I didn't know the story behind it until not my grandma, my aunt told me what happened because my mother, she said your mother was this and that and so on and so forth or whatever. This is my mother's oldest sister. Anyway, life didn't get that much better after that. It was
Right.
rough. The thing was though about growing up rough, you don't realize it. You don't realize it's like asking a fish what's it like to be wet. They don't know that this is how it's always been. So I can't tell you
Yeah,
what it's
that's
like
just
that.
their experience.
Yeah. So growing up, we didn't stay in the same home more than a year very often. I think let's see, when I was let's see in I don't know. Let's see, kindergarten. No, I didn't stay. No, first grade, different house. Second grade, different house. Third grade, yeah. I think we stayed in the same place. No, never. I'm trying to remember. I don't think we ever. I don't think I ever went to the same school for 2 years consecutive. That was just kind of what we did. We were always moving. A couple
You
times we
talking
had to move.
about your whole life, your
Well,
whole adult life, or just when you were younger?
no. Up until what happened was this: we kept moving. I don't know all the circumstances surrounding, why we kept moving and so forth. I just thought that was normal. People ask me, I'm from Indianapolis. They would ask me, what part of
hmm
Indianapolis are you from? Everywhere, near North Side, West Side, East Side. What's funny is when we moved to the East Side of Indianapolis, anyone knows about Indianapolis or Indiana, and they know about 42nd and Post, East Side. 42nd and Post was not what it was when we moved there. I always like to say we broke it in. It was not bad at all. As a matter of fact, we moved out there because we thought it was a good place. But so did a whole lot of other kind of bad families. And so it ended up being, kind of rough. We were doing all kind of bad stuff. the pizza guy. We called and order pizza. He'd show up and we'd rob him. That kind of stuff. We were just
Oh,
bad
dang.
kids. Yeah, just bad kids. What happened was, um, matter of fact, I see a guy in the chat, Corey Burnett. Barnett. He's in Milwaukee. I'm coming your way in a second, Corey. Here's what happened. We had 2 hits put out on us, twice,
Wow.
2 different times. Because again, when you mess around with drugs and so forth, well, sometimes stuff happens. Well, my mother one night we're gone. Some people break into the house and they're coming to kill us, and we find out later they meant to come and kill us. The reason why they didn't get me and my brother because how good God is. A Christian group called Christ. What is it? See, Christ for the no, Christ for the nation. Not Christ for the nation. Christ. I don't know what it was. Christ for youth or youth for Christ. Is what it was. Youth for Christ. They came and picked us up. They took us camping, and so that night we were gone. My mother happened to wake up in the middle, like at 3 a.m., and got her gun and chased them out of the house.
Mm.
They were now, you know how you have like 4 or 5 or 6 different locks on the front door. They'd already gone down and unlocked the door, so because there was no way they could have got there and then unlocked that stuff and not got caught with my mother. So,
Yeah.
so we end up from there. We end up having to move. Now, my father used to be in organized crime. My father also was in prison as well. He
When you say
found out.
organized crime, you're talking about the mob, mafia type thing?
Well, he ran with the hoodlums on the street, and also the those kind of folks too, the Italian folks, the white the white organized crime,
Right,
as
right,
well as the
right.
black. Anyone from Indianapolis that is my age or older would know. Hey, you know Jimmy Minor. I shouldn't say anyone. I shouldn't say anyone, but a lot of folks do know who he was. And so he handled that. I don't know how, but I was just told that he handled that. And so we didn't have but we did end up moving. However, though, one time he either didn't handle it or didn't get to it fast enough or what have you, but somebody was coming to get us after we were out there on 42nd and Post on the east side for a year and a half. And what happened was we came back home from practice, and my cousin, older cousin, he was in his 20s at the time. He was boxing up stuff in the front room. He said, "Go in there and see your mama." So we go in there and say, "Yeah, pack up your stuff." We think we moved to a different apartment in the complex. No. Next thing we know, we're loading this U-Haul. And Corey, guess where we went to? Corey Barnett. We moved to Milwaukee because my mother's sister, my aunt, lived. Actually, 2 of them lived in Milwaukee. Milwaukee's pretty bad, by the way, especially the part that I went to. I lived on, Corey, you'll know this. I lived on 20th and North. 20th and North is not a good part of Milwaukee. You have right over across the street, on 19th Street, you got 19, that's the Vice Lords. 20th, you have the disciples. There's a group of disciples. They call the little branch called 27. That's what they used to say. You walk up and down the street, you hear them 27. That was my neighborhood. Then you cross over, you got 19, right? And then just down the street, you had Latin Kings. And so it's not like we moved from Indianapolis to a good part of Milwaukee. We went to the worst part, and we saw folks getting killed and different drug deals going on and stuff like that. It was just normal in Indianapolis and normal in Milwaukee. What happened was my mother just really could not afford to take care of us. She just wasn't stable financially. And what happened was she sent me back to Indianapolis to stay with my father. Well, my father, even though he had some stuff going on, he was certainly stable. He said I passed by. He said 23 passed by there a lot. Yeah, I don't know what it's like now. I know it's like then, but he had me come stay with him. He has some gambling joints and some and a bar, and so he had money to take care of me, and he made me not to become a godly man, but just to try to grow up. He was one that did not allow for excuses, and so consequently nowadays I don't allow for excuses. If something's going on, well then so what? Whatever's going on now is like it just started happening. It's always been going on, and so we're not the kind that's going to get up and complain about what's not happening, what is happening, how bad I had it. My mama did this, my daddy did it. No. We keep it moving, and we do things. We make things. I don't want to say make things happen, but we're not going to just sit and cry about how bad things are. Get up and do something.
Right.
That's kind of my upbringing. Now, when I moved in with him, from 8th grade till I graduated, I stayed in the same place. And so that was the first time. I had no idea. It was just weird and wonderful. actually going through school with your classmates.
Yeah, I started to ask you how old were you? Well, you said so around the eighth grade. So what, 14 or so when you
Is
moved
that
in
what
with
it
your
is? Yeah,
dad?
I think 14 is eighth grade, right?
Somewhere
I
around
think
that
so.
13, 14, maybe. I'm just trying to think back when I was in school, way back in the day.
Let's see. Let's see. 18, hold on, 18, 17, 16, 15, 4. Yeah, I think 14. Yeah, 14 in eighth grade. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So what was your relationship with your dad prior to
I had a
you
good relationship
moving
with
in
him.
with him?
You know what? I thought that my relationship was what daddy was supposed to be. You know, he was there, he was around and so forth, but he didn't live with me. But I could
Mm-hmm.
always, anytime I wanted to talk to him or he wanted to talk to me, we talked. I knew him. It wasn't like I saw my daddy every now and then, once in a blue moon. No, he was around and he would get on me. He was the one that would buy me clothes. He made me this man. This man made me go to work. I had a job when I was 8 years old.
What?
My job now
Doing what?
it wasn't a super job. It was I had to get up and go to his clothing store. He had a clothing store that and this is how his connections worked because it had these little government contracts where the poor people in the city would come down there and they would get these vouchers for these clothes, and so he had some connections to get that set up. Anyway, I had to go down there on Saturdays to clean up and to hang stuff up and to fold stuff up. Now, mind you, Saturdays in the mornings, what did we do in the 70s and early 80s on Saturday? We watching
Cartoons.
cartoons. Yeah, and so
Right.
he got me down there where everybody else was watching cartoons and going out and playing, working. And I didn't do much. He just wanted to teach me work ethic. I'm 8. What work ethic do I need? But he said, "Boy, you don't get a job." That's what he told me. And so, but that's the kind of man he was. He was going to instill a work ethic in me. One day, I'll never forget this. I got smart with him, and I was talking about I don't need to go to work. I'm this, I'm that, and he said, "I tell you what, remember that come Christmas." Whatever. I didn't say that, but I'm thinking that,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to get me Christmas. Christmas morning comes, and there's nothing underneath the tree. Yeah, buddy. My daddy, I didn't have
So
anything on the tree.
there was a tree up,
The
but
tree
and there
was
was
there,
nothing in it.
nothing in it. And now he would always buy presents for me and my brother Chris. My two oldest brothers, they live with their father in Michigan, in Southfield. And so,
Mm-hmm.
because my mother got a divorce from him because, again, the drug stuff. And
Yeah.
so not only was my presence not there, Chris's presents weren't there. My mother did. She did call him and cuss him out and those. So he ended up bringing the gifts later, but taught me a lesson: do not talk back and get fly with my father. And so, but he taught me want to be respectful, how to have a good work ethic and so forth. So I had a one that was my man. My after Jesus, the most favorite man of mine is my daddy. I love him to death.
Is he still living?
No, he had cancer, and
Mm.
the interesting thing was that because he was out and he was sick and so forth, he was able to have some time to think, and I was able to share the gospel with him, and then
Amen.
about I was able to share. I think about it, after he placed faith in Christ, he thought he was getting better, but then it kind of came back again, and then he ended up having to go in for another surgery, and then he ended up passing. So, but he did place his faith in Christ, and then by all accounts, even after that, he lived like he was a Christian after that. So,
Oh,
that was
amen.
one of my two of my crowning moments was leading him to Christ, and then leading my mother to Christ.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Amen. Well, two things I noticed real quick. I want to offer my condolences. One for your dad passing, and two for you living in Indiana. I definitely want to offer my.
I don't know why you listen. You were at the worst part of Indiana in a jail. So I
I was living in Michigan City, Indiana,
hmm
and I worked at Westville Correctional Center from the end of '92 to to uh, to '95. And
hmm
man, those 3 years I lived in Indiana were the worst 3 years of my life. I'm not even gonna lie to you. And it wasn't because of my time in prison. It was just because it was the weather was horrific because you had that lake effect coming off of Lake Michigan.
hmm
So the weather was horrible. And you're talking to a kid. I grew up in New Jersey, born and raised in New Jersey, and so I was used to bad weather. But man, there was nothing like that weather in Indiana. It was just it was utter misery, and it
and
seemed like it was gloomy all the time.
there's
Winter
nothing
lasted
there.
about winter lasted about 2 weeks. I mean, summer lasted about 2 weeks. And then it seemed like the weather was horrific again. I could not, I was so glad to get up out of there. I mean, I learned a lot.
Yeah.
I learned my time working as a corrections officer was some of the most helpful times throughout the rest of my law enforcement career. Because when you're in there, and we're going to get into that here shortly, but not right there. I just want to give a little bit of my perspective on it. Was that the things that I learned dealing with those convicts, because I was at a level 4 facility right outside of Gary, Indiana, right out about an hour outside of Chicago. So a lot of these cats that you were mentioning, your vice lords, your GDs and whatnot, that was my audience. Those are the guys that I dealt with on a regular basis. But man, and it was probably I wasn't raised in the hood. Like our background couldn't be any more different. Like our upbringing, we lived basically at the poverty level because my dad, we were the only black family in a all white neighborhood. And you're talking about an upper middle class, middle to upper middle class neighborhood. But my dad worked at a salt company, like a salt factory. And there was a warehouse where they packaged salt and chemicals and stuff like that. And there was a loft above the warehouse. And that's basically where I grew up until I was 14 years old. So we lived above a warehouse. We got woken up every morning by Monday through Saturday with a big old trailer truck backing up to the warehouse, and the guy driving a forklift and unloading on it with a wood and coal burning stove, and it was pretty. And when you said you don't really know, when you talked about when you grow up poor, you don't really know you're poor. I was totally fine with where we were living until I had a friend of mine who came over my house. One of my friends from like first, second, or third grade. I'm playing. He's like, "Hey, Eric, where do you live?" And I said, "I live up there." And we walked up there, and he said, "Eric, you have a junky house." I mean, you know about a little 8-year-old, 7-8-year-old kid. And when I heard that my stomach just dropped. I just felt so bad. And then after that, for a few years, I had a complex. I never wanted anybody to know where I lived and whatnot. But, you know, you're a little kid. You don't know. I was content with where we were living until I started seeing how a lot of my friends were really living. And that's when I started feeling bad. But going back to what you're talking about, I didn't really have any hood-like experiences until I got older. After we left Indiana, moved out here to Las Vegas. And I know we're bouncing around a little bit, but I'm just kind of comparing a little bit of your background to mine. When we first moved out to Las Vegas, we found a place that was affordable, and you know, they were willing to take it. You good, bro? Yeah, they were willing to take us in without me having a job or anything like that. So, but once I got there, I had a brother who was in town, who was in the Air Force, so he had just gotten out of the Air Force. And then he told me, because we're living on 28th Street. So anyone who's familiar with Las Vegas, we're living on 28th and Stewart. And at that time, you had the 28th Street gang. They were notorious, and there was a lot of shooting and robbing and stealing and drugs being sold. So once we got there, my brother came over and visited us, and he said, "Yeah, man, we got to get you up out of here. This ain't a place you want to stay." I thought we were doing halfway decent. I mean, it didn't look too bad, but it was pretty crummy. And then the first few years of us being in Vegas, the places we lived for a few years were pretty much in the hood. But as time went on, we managed to get out of it. So our experiences are similar, but kind of in reverse, because my ghetto hood-like experiences happened when I was just as a young man, as an adult.
Yeah, you ain't live unless unless you live in the hood or live in the projects. You ain't live. So
you ain't lying, brother. You ain't lying. But
you know what it's like?
Let me.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Say again.
No, go ahead.
No, let me. Yeah. So I recall. Correct me if I'm wrong. I recall hearing you talk about your background before you got incarcerated. Were you already? You were active in church. Is that correct?
I had.
Or did that happen later on?
When I was active before I even got in church. When I became a Christian, I was at Texas Tech.
Okay.
And even when I first became, immediately, I started telling everybody about Jesus. I was rough and didn't know much with it, but I was excited about Jesus even after a year or 2 or 3 or 4 years. But I still had, just like everybody else, I got saved, but my skin still stayed on me, and so I still had to battle my flesh. A lot of times my flesh won. Matter of fact, a lot of times my flesh just took over. And so,
Mm.
but it's just, this growing process. When I got married, who my wife was a Christian. Matter of fact, I met her while she was passing out tracts. I don't know why she married me. She just she married down. I married up, and so, but so we stayed in Lubbock, Texas, for a few years, and I was involved in the church there. We moved to Dallas and still involved in church, but I also had an investment firm. I started an investment firm. Actually, I used to work for Edward Jones, a couple of investment companies, then started my own firm. And I was still a Christian. Some things happened in the
Mm.
business, and and some folks may even ask. I don't know how many. Some folks have heard, but I'll go ahead and repeat it. A whole lot of stuff was happening with the business and with me personally. I won't get into all of that stuff, but suffice it to say, when you're somewhere God didn't want you to be in the first place, it's not like God is going to bless you. It's almost like, hey, God, I'm going to do this, now bless it. And no, God is not taking orders from me. So at the business, the vice president leaves. At the business, the president over our mortgage division leaves. The person's over the insurance division leaves. And just all these different things. And so money was just kind of really, really, really strained in the office.
Mm-hmm.
And my job, as well as the vice president's job, is to make sure that people are, as they're bringing money in or bringing accounts in, they're actually turning these accounts over and selling them on stocks or bonds or financial plan or what have you. And a lot of guys, they were just comfortable. And in an investment office, you're going to have often case like a branch manager who's going to kind of push these guys and make sure that they're doing what they're doing. That whatever
Mm-hmm.
you have is never enough. And I kind of lost sight of that. Well, as money's not coming in, what I would do, let's say you're a client, I would take money out of your account, put it over into the business account, cover whatever needs to be covered. As fees and commissions came in, because typically it was once a month, sometimes twice, and we would take that money and put it back into your account. But in the meantime, in between the time that we pull it out of your account and the time that you get it back, we're going to give you a statement. Well, that is, as far as the feds are concerned, that's a no-no, and they charged me with a mail fraud charge, and so that's how I ended up going to prison. Now, my mind, I can fix this. I can fix this. God has brought me too far to bless me, and when you have that kind of mentality that God is going to bless you no matter what, you think that you can do no matter what, and God is still going to bless you. No, because again, God didn't work for me. God isn't going to, hey, bless what I'm doing. No, I ought to be doing what God is blessing, and really where He wants me to be. And it was never there. As a matter of fact, when I said I was at Texas Tech, my whole dream for my entire life up till then was to play football. And I had got
Okay.
invited to these. They have these little regional combines. It's kind of like what we have pro days now, but a regional combine. And even I think it was 2 weeks before, 2 weeks prior to going, it was just like the Lord was just impressed upon my heart. No, 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 ministry, ministry, ministry. That was my focus. And so, excuse me. So what I decided to do was I'm not going to play no football, no nothing. Just focus on the ministry. The problem was though our ministry didn't pay a whole lot. We were making $700 a month, and I don't care where you are, even in Lubbock, Texas, that's not a lot. Fortunately, though, initially while I was working there, I was still in college, and so we had monies from our from the college, from student loans and so forth to kind of help get you through. But that's not a plan. You can't live on that forever.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking for any and everything to try to make some money, to try to make ends meet. I've got a wife, got kids, and so forth. And so what am I going to do? And so my thought was go with the investment route. But I'd already made up my mind that I want to be in ministry forever. But I got sidetracked, and I got to doing something that was not part of my purpose. And so, what I would even tell anyone else, if you have a plan to do something, whatever your purpose is, any and everything that does not conform to that, anything that can possibly take you out of the way, get rid of it. If you plan on going over here, then don't let anything over there distract you. Don't even turn that way and look that way. And that's what I did. If I would have just focused
Right.
on that, because I said to myself, could I imagine if at that time, at age, I don't know, 25, 23, 24, 25, if I would have said, okay, fine, I am going to stick with ministry. If I need to go to seminary, whatever, just develop myself. But what I was doing was I had almost like divided allegiances. Um, this side of my mind is ministry. This side of my mind is trying to make money. Where it should have been just putting my faith in Christ, letting God just take care of, because he'd already done it. He had been taking care of us. When we needed something, he would come through. There was a time where we wanted to get some kids some stuff for Christmas and so forth, and we didn't. Again, $700 a month. We weren't making very much money. Matter of fact, no, I take it back. We had gotten a raise, so we were up to about $1,100 a month. And you know how you do when you're poor. You dream about what you like to get the kids for Christmas, and so we put stuff on
Right.
layaway. And so we put things on layaway. We go to, matter of fact, the day that we're going to get stuff out of layaway, we had this a wallet with some money in it. We lost the wallet, but somebody turned the wallet in with all the money in it. Who does that? Then we go to pay for it because we're feeling good. We feel like, you know what? Thank you, Lord. You are so good. We're just praising. We're in the parking lot praising God for just keeping, protecting that little bit of money we had. It wasn't a lot, but it
Mm-hmm.
was, it was $1 billion to us. We go to the back to pay for our layaway, and they said, "No, your layaway it's been paid for. We've just been waiting for you to come pick it up." And we looked at each
Wow.
other like, "What?" Well, praise God. And so we get our stuff. We had layaway at another place. I think one was at a Super Kmart or Super Target, one of the Super something, and then the other one's at Walmart. We go to the Walmart to get the remaining portions out. That was paid for. Like, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Are you serious? Because we're thinking, maybe this. We thought the first place was a mistake, but somebody blessed us. So you know what? Hey, we were going to pay our rent late. We had made
Mm-hmm.
up our mind that we were going to pay the rent late, but it was early. It was still, paying the January rent. Let's go ahead and pay the January rent now. We go to pay the January rent, and Shelly Iverson, she's apartment manager. She says, "Your rent's paid. What are you talking about?" No, no, we know it's paid for December, but what about January? She said, "No, January rent is paid." Huh? So somebody just January and February was paid for.
Wow.
It's just, and so we already have evidence that God has taken care of us.
Mm.
But so what did I think? I started thinking that was a problem. I started thinking, well, what about? And if he's already shown himself to be faithful to me, why would I doubt it? And that's what I did. And so I got to thinking and decided that I've got to make sure that I can take care of my family. And so I started going the investment route. And then if you do that long enough, your dreams, especially if you are ambitious, you're going to want to move up in the business or start your own business. And that's what I did. It took my eye off the ball. So
So I was
when
going
I
to ask.
go
Yeah,
ahead,
I
I'm
was going
sorry.
to ask you real quick. So when did you totally set aside doing ministry and started focusing 100% on your financial planning, or were you just doing a little bit of
I
both,
was doing
or
both.
how did
I
that
was
work
doing
out?
both.
Okay.
I still gave a lot of time to the church, to the ministry, but also to the business. And so I was because I own the business. I could, my time could be flexible. My time could be flexible. And at first, things were going well. Things were going well, but then when things aren't going well, and since this wasn't God's idea in the first place, here I
Hmm.
am asking him to bail me out. And so no, but no, I was doing both. And thankfully, I say thankfully, going to prison, it showed me a couple of things. One, how to just sit down and spend my time in Him, but then
Right.
two, get past all of the character flaws, get away from all the character flaws that I had. Because otherwise, when you're going 1,000 miles an hour, you don't have time, nor do you want to sit down and try to figure out what's wrong with you. But when you're in prison, you've got time, and you've got time to take to do the right things and to figure out what the wrong things were as well.
Right. So real quick, once again, you mentioned it, but I didn't quite catch it. So what exactly were you found? Did they say that you did wrong that got you in trouble?
I pled guilty to mail fraud. Here's what's funny.
Okay.
Here's what's funny about it. The mail fraud charge. If I'm sending statements through either the U.S. mails or through an interstate carrier, a commercial
Like
interstate, a
FedEx or
private,
something like that?
huh?
Like
What'd you say?
FedEx or
Yeah,
like Federal
FedEx,
Express? Okay.
FedEx, UPS, or any carrier that goes out of state, be it private or public. Well, I did. I had an attorney who had never had a federal case. She didn't tell me this until the day of sentencing. It's like, what? Okay, fine. I know I'm guilty anyway. I'm
Was
guilty
it a
anyway.
paid attorney or was it like a public defender?
She was a paid attorney, but I didn't pay her much, which is, they say you get what you pay for. And so, but she should have known just the basics. Because when you get in prison, you start looking up the law and how this stuff works. You
Right.
realize all the mistakes was made. She never asked for evidence at all, not once.
Wow.
She never. Typically, when you go to prison or when you go before the court, your first plea is going to be a plea of guilty. Then you're going to come back and I'm sorry, plea of not guilty. You do that typically to get evidence, to see, to find for discovery and so forth. Because obviously the attorney is supposed to make sure that the government has a case. They might be right, but if they can't prove it, then they have no case. Well, she never asked for their evidence. Had she asked for evidence, this was funny. Had she asked for evidence, she would have discovered, like I knew, but I didn't know it was an issue, that I never used the U.S. mails or FedEx or UPS. I used a local courier, a guy that
Okay.
drives from one part of town to the other part of town. Well, that's not mail fraud. As a matter of fact, it doesn't violate any federal statute. Now,
Mm.
I'm thinking while I'm in prison, I got a way out. All I got to do is file this paperwork, show that she didn't ask for evidence, and she never did ask for evidence, which, by the way, is the first thing, or one of the first things you look for when they call ineffective assistance of counsel. She never did,
Hmm.
and then this what she would have discovered had she asked for evidence. Well, so I'm thinking in my mind, I'm getting out soon. I'm getting out soon. Well, someone asked me, Corey, because if you look at the case, it looks open and shut, as open and
Yeah.
shut as it gets. It's classic. Well, here's the problem. What if God didn't want me out? And I do believe God is sovereign. I do believe that God does run this world. Beyonce, girls don't run the world. God runs the world. And so
Amen.
could you imagine the kind of person I was, and I'm still brand new in the system? Could you imagine if I would have gotten released from prison through my own work, through my own
Mm.
doing? Well, then who gets the credit?
You?
God doesn't. I do. And because someone else asked, Corey, how in the world they give you 20 years? Typically, someone with this charge, with the guidelines and criteria, it would be somewhere around 3, 4, 5 years, right? Even the
Yeah.
possibility of probation or 1 year. But I got 20 years. I got the maximum on a plea. Well, if you give me 1, 2, or 3 years, do I really change inwardly? I don't know. 20 years though, yeah, it's time to do some thinking. And
Oh yeah,
so,
some deep soul searching
oh
with
yeah,
20.
and because one or two things are going to happen in prison, you're either going to get better or you're going to get worse. Unfortunately, many get, a lot get worse. But I got better. I got better in the sense that I got close to the Lord. I was not trying to prove to anybody, because I even to today I don't say that I'm innocent. Now maybe I'm not guilty, but I'm certainly not innocent. I still did something that I had no business doing. I'll never, that part
Right.
doesn't go away, even if the federal government technically should not have charged me for it. I was wrong, and I more than that, I have offended the name of Christ. So, but had I gotten out in a year or 2 years, who knows? Maybe I would not have changed. What ended up happening though, and this is the good part about it, when you go away to prison, you learn a few things. You learn about yourself, which is just as important. That's the most important thing. You find out about yourself, and you find out about God. But also, you do find out about the people that call themselves your friends. They tend to not want to stay around you while you're in prison, and so, which is good. The people that I would not have gotten rid of or would not have left on their own, God did a pretty good job helping me to usher them out of my life.
Amen. Amen. Real quick, man. Considering the fact that you got, when you said that on average people get 3 to 5 years for a similar offense, but that's if they were actually guilty of committing the crime, correct?
Well, if you no, being guilty, that if you plead or if you're found guilty, well, first of all, if you go to trial,
Right.
then you're subject to the maximum. The maximum under that statute was 20 years. That's the maximum. So if I
But the
if I go
question
to
I'm
trial,
asking, the question. Yeah, the question I'm asking is, were you? But you said that the evidence was never requested by your attorney. So, in all actuality, by the letter of the law, you didn't really do anything wrong when it comes to the legal system. Is that correct, or am I
As far as the
misunderstanding?
federal statute, you have to mail fraud is to defraud someone, but to use the U.S. mails. Now,
Mm-hmm.
defrauding somebody is not a federal charge, just in and of itself. Okay,
Right.
you can defraud whomever. Now, it might be a state charge. That's different. But if we're talking about the federal charge, it becomes cognizable under the United States sentencing guidelines, or I'm sorry, criminal code, if you use something that they have jurisdiction over. In this case, the U.S. mails. The problem was I didn't use the U.S. mail, so I'm guilty, just not of their particular statute. And so,
I got
um, just like wire fraud, you can I can threaten you all day long. That's not a problem. But if I use the internet or the phone, then that becomes wire fraud. I can solicit sexual favors from someone or a minor, and it not be a federal statute, a federal charge. If you use the interstate, like the internet or phones, then it becomes cognizable. Are you with me? And so in my
you.
case, the statute required that I use the U.S. mails, and then the maximum penalty for that is 20 years. Well, when you plead because you're helping out the government. You don't want to take them to trial, and so the the payoff is that they don't hit you as hard. You get substantial. You get assistance. You get points to kind of count for you in terms of when they're sentencing you. And so typically someone that pled guilty to the charge with the same dollar amount and number of victims and so forth, it would have been about 2, 3, 4 years, maybe 5 years. I ran into a bunch of guys with the same charge that were getting out in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And I'm like, well, why'd you get 20 years? I could have went to trial and got the exact same amount of time. I could have went to trial, cussed the judge out and everybody else, and still got the exact same sentence. But I believe, though, as far as I'm concerned, that there was a God behind that, that He had something bigger and better for me. And so, while I'm sitting there, while I'm in prison, I had exhausted all of my legal effort. The federal courts came back and denied my motion. And at this point in time, okay, God, listen, I've been riding with you this long. I'm with you. I'm not. You know, you and I know. If no one else knows, God, you and I know that I won't leave you. I'm not. I'm with you. I'm always going to trust you. And at that moment, and I've had this peace in me for of 13 years, probably the last 5 or 6 years. The last 5 or 6 years is the most peace that I had ever had in, I didn't say in my life, but certainly in a long time, and certainly during that entire sentence, because I put all my comfort and my faith in Him. And at some point, I didn't know that the doors were going to open, but I got out
Mm-hmm.
early. But the point is, though, whether I did or didn't, I can say confidently that I trust God. I don't know that I would have done that, or I would have said it to the same degree if it would have been 1 year or 2 years, because you know how guys will say, I can do this time stand on my head. Well, 1 or 2 years, that passes by pretty quickly. And so I'm not saying I'm thankful for the 20 years, or for the 20-year sentence, but I'm thankful for what the 20-year sentence taught me, if
I
that makes
got you.
sense.
Yeah, it does definitely. So you had people basically telling you, your attorney, you're going to do this plea deal, and we're going to be looking at 3 to 5 years max.
Hmm.
Was that pretty much the gist that you were hearing? Because
Yeah.
I got a follow up question. Okay, so that's what they're telling you. When you're standing there and you're getting ready to get your sentence handed to you, and then that judge turns around and slaps you with 20 years, I can only imagine what, like, your response, like what went through your head, like how did you handle that? What was your reaction?
Well, they had me in shackles, and I
Right.
remember asking myself, why am I in shackles? This is a white collar offense. It's a white collar charge. Why am I in shackles? I haven't killed anybody. And so when he said, first of all, when he said 240, I thought my mind, I thought I heard him say 240 weeks. So I'm trying to calculate 240 weeks. Then he said it two more times. He said 240 months. That's 20 years. Oh, that's why I have these shackles on. because 200, you want to just do something. You want to choke somebody, run, do something, but you can't. And so I get it now. They ain't dumb in the court system. They ain't dumb. So
No, they done been through a rodeo or two. They know how it
yeah,
works.
and so I'm thinking, wait a second, how do we go from worst case scenario 3 or 4, maybe 5 years to
From
20?
best case to worst, yeah.
Yeah, and so I was in shock. But and now what happened was while at sentencing, I had even asked my former pastor to well, I didn't. My attorney did, but I thought it was a good idea as well, though, because we were on good terms. I had asked him to to come and to be a character witness. Now he comes back and he says why he did so later, but he on the stand after my attorney asked him a few questions and it wasn't going right. I was like, this is coming off weird. He asked the judge. The judge says, "You can go back and sit down." He says, "Your Honor, may I?" And he voluntarily tells the judge, "I think that the best thing for Corey Minor is for you to give him the maximum sentence that the law allows." And I'm floored. Like,
Wow.
what? What the you could have you listen, the whole courtroom was stunned.
Mm.
As a matter of fact, when they replayed it on the news, they talked about that. Now, he said that because of what the government had said that wasn't the same Corey that he knew. So yeah, that's the Corey. Well, he didn't understand. The government at sentencing is going to call you. You'll be the worst thing in the world. You'll
Every
be
name in the book.
yeah. You're Saddam Hussein. Nothing. You've never done anything good. Why? Because there's two things the federal government needs. They need a conviction, which they're going to get, and they need time. Those are the two ways
Mhm.
that you judge uh, a prosecuting attorney. Got to get a conviction
Right.
and got to get time. If he gets probation, that officer does not look that favorably in his office. So that was that. But the reason why you haven't heard anything positive is because all you've heard was the government. The positive is going to come from you, but he didn't give it. And so now he came back and he apologized. He apologized to me. He sent letters to my wife and also told the church that he was wrong and so forth. And he asked me for forgiveness. At first, when he asked me for forgiveness, I said, "Yes, I forgive you." But you say, "I forgive you," but you really don't. You don't. I'm not. I wasn't too sure I forgave him. I wasn't
Right.
too sure. I said it with my mouth, but I really wasn't sure in my heart because there were some moments where I thought to myself, you know what? If I get out, when I get out, right? Well, I know a couple of years later, I saw him being recognized in some magazine, some booklet, and I was proud for him. And at that moment, I knew, yeah, I had forgiven him. And then he sent me another letter, and I told him back, "Listen, you have been forgiven. You don't have to worry about that. We're good. If I saw you today, I'd hug you." And so he did ask for forgiveness. He was wrong. He said he was wrong for that, but there's no takebacks after that. After you say that to the judge like, well, I guess I got to give him as much time as possible. So
Do you think what he said, his testimony, do you think that influenced the judge, or you think the judge already had it in their mind to give you the maximum time?
I don't see how it could not have influenced the judge. I don't see how. Here's a guy who is your character witness and he's a pastor, and he's saying give him the max. Okay, fine. I don't have. I don't. The judge didn't know me. He didn't. He wasn't predisposed to view me
Right.
favorably. So here comes your character witness. Off with his head. Okay, fine. Off with his head. It was the judge didn't mind that black on black crime right there. So,
Man, so okay, so what was the transition after you get that sentence? How long did it take? Were you already in the county jail at that time, or were you out on
I
the
was in,
street?
I was in the county jail, and they took me there back to the county jail, and I was there for let me think, probably about 2 weeks, and then they transferred me to a federal detention center, and then I was there for probably another 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks.
Is that like
Uh,
a transitional facility until they
uh huh.
find where they're going to send you long term?
Yep. Now they don't tell you where you're going until you
Right.
go to a transit center or the destination. And now at the detention center, nobody wanted to go to Beaumont. Nobody. I don't want to go to
Where's
Beaumont.
Beaumont at? Beaumont, Texas?
Yeah, Bloody Beaumont is what they called it.
Okay.
Unless you are from Houston, nobody wanted to go to Beaumont.
Right.
And so they put me on the bus. They drive us to Oklahoma City, which is where one of the federal transit centers is. And so they get there, and that's when they told me where I was going. Like, oh I don't want to go to
The
Beaumont.
one place no one wanted to go. That's where they were
Yeah,
sending
and
you.
like, why am I in Beaumont is rough. So, and that wasn't the place for me, but some kind of way I ended up there. I really do think though, just in God's providence and His sovereignty, that got me there because a lot of things were accomplished spiritually as well as just learning the Lord and just practically applying it with these different inmates. And it was
Mm-hmm.
12 hour bus trip while you're shackled. If I had to move my glass, I had to do just like this because I'm shackled. My waist, my wrists are shackled together to my waist, and my feet are
Belly
shackled.
chains.
Yeah, so for 11, 12 hour bus ride, and you got another inmate right there leaning up against you. Worst trip ever.
So you were
Worst trip.
living in Indiana at that time, or
No,
you
I
were
was living
living
in
in
Dallas.
Texas?
I was in Dallas at that
Okay.
time. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So here you are. I know you had a pretty rough upbringing, but did you ever do any jail time or anything like that when you were a kid or a young man?
No, no,
Okay.
no.
So here you are. How old? 20. How old were you at the time?
When I went to prison,
Yeah.
30. Hold on, let me figure this out. 30, 35.
Okay. You're 35 years old on your way, federal prison, 20-year, and we're talking federal time. So as far as I know, they don't really give out good time. If you get 20 years, you do 20. Is that
No,
is
no,
that
you
true?
you 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 get good time, but you have to do 85%.
85%.
Yeah,
Okay,
there's
so
the only people that get to there is no parole in federal prison. Unless you committed the crime before I think 80, 88, or 87, or if you were charged on a military base. If you were
I
part of
got you.
part of the armed forces and you got charged. So you got to do 85% of your time. Yeah.
Okay, I got you. So you're
And
looking at 18,
17,
rough eight. Okay, 17 years. All right, so
17.
you're on your way. Here you are on the bus, bloody Beaumont. I can only imagine, like I can only imagine what was going through your mind. How did that impact you? What were you thinking? How did that impact your wife, your family? Like, what was going on? Like, what were the dynamics of it in the big
Well,
picture?
for me going down there, I really wasn't too worried about me. I just figured, okay, it is what it is. Um,
Mm-hmm.
all my life, I remember I was talking to my father. We don't make excuses. My mother, we don't make excuses. It is what it is. We gonna do it. We gonna make it through it. And so, um, on my way there, I know I'm gonna be all right some kind of way. Some kind of way in the end, it's gonna work out. Now, while I'm going there, I'm thinking though I still might have something in the works legally.
Yeah.
Something because first of all, why in the world would I be going down for 20 years? I should be, listen, I'm a Christian and I'm Corey. God ain't gonna leave, yeah, okay. And so that's my thought. God is gonna God is gonna take me out of this spot.
Right.
I just figure, okay, maybe a year or two once everything the appeals process runs its course. As for my wife, now that was the bigger story. That's the part that hurt me the most because we go from having stuff to not having anything, and she is now on her own. She had just actually gotten her teacher's certification, and so forth. She had her degree, and so she started teaching. But the income there was nothing like what she was used to. Prior to then, she was a stay-at-home wife or stay-at-home mother, whichever one you call it, housewife, whatever. She was at the house with the kids,
Yeah.
homeschooling kids, and so forth. And so we just losing everything, everything. Listen, if there's a model of a woman who held it together, who could do it, she is the one to look at.
Mm.
It wasn't easy for her at all, and some things she'll even tell you that she wish she could have did better, but kept the family together. The kids aren't strung out on drugs, this and that, or what have you. And so when I came back to her stability. I came back to her. She's got things running. So I didn't have any money when I got out of prison. I didn't have anything. And so she was taking care of me initially because, again, I didn't have anything. And so even when she wanted, I remind her all the time, listen, it ain't three women on the planet that could have did what you did and the way you did it.
Mm.
And so now, and you know how it is. Sometimes kids they don't always see what the mother's doing, especially the girls.
Right.
They don't always see it, and they got complaints. And mama's this, mama's that. No, listen, what mama, I tell her she's a lioness. She's a lioness. Now, a lioness will love her cubs. She will. You better not mess with them. But if the cubs get out of line, the lioness has teeth. And so she's going to straighten them up, but she's going to get them. Oh, doggone it. Speaking of lions, my doggone cat is. He always waits till. I can't stand this cat. I can't stand this cat. On purpose. And it was funny.
Yeah, the timing was good.
While I'm sitting there talking about a lion, I hear the cat. I have to look at the screen. Is Eric making sounds? I thought it was you. And it's just so. I thought it was you. I was like, what are you doing? I'm flowing in this story. But anyway.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that, man.
But no, she's something else. She's something else. And I have to tell the kids, listen, you can't, if you can be like her when you're her age, I'd be proud of you. So anyway,
right.
This cat. Yeah. See, my office is the cat's bathroom. So
I got you. I hope you have I hope that means you got a litter box over there.
Yes, a litter box over there. It's a litter box over there. If my daughter is emptied it properly, then I won't smell anything. But sometimes
I got you. All right, man. So you're not really worried about yourself. You're more worried about your family and whatnot. Okay, you arrive at the facility. What's your initial impressions? How were you treated when you first walked in? Because I know there's depending, and I know not all facilities are the same. You know, my background is the state prison system. My background is the county jail here in Vegas when I worked as an officer in both spots. So I know there's a process that takes place, and there's a lot of clicking, clicks. You have my experience in Indiana at the time when I first got into corrections was whites and blacks primarily, and and you had people separating by vice lords, gangster disciples. What was your experience when you came in?
Well, just like any other prison, more so at Beaumont. Listen, it's a dangerous compound,
right.
Unless you're at the camp. It's a dangerous compound, and so everybody clicks up. You got whites, blacks, and then you got two types of Hispanics. You got what we call the I forgot their name. Pisces. And then you've got
those are the ones like the ones that came over from
those are the Mexicans.
They're not gang affiliated.
Yeah, the Pisces. Those are the ones from Mexico who happen to be here. Then the dominant gang of Mexicans down there were the Tongos, Tongo Blast. Now, even if you weren't Tongo Blast, you still kind of ran with them if you weren't a Paisa. It would suck to be a Mexican who lives in California who is now in Texas. Whole different dynamic because now you got to die. I don't know what that's all about, but and it can be literally we're cousins. And so you got that dynamic working for you. And so everybody's got to figure out what gang they're going to be in. Like the Asians, if you're Asians, depending upon what kind of Asian, you might hang with the whites. If you're now for whatever reason, typically 9 times out of 10, Puerto Ricans are black in prison. They're with the blacks.
Right.
Dominicans, depending on the prison, they might be with the blacks or they might be with either the Tongos or the Paisas. It varies. If you are, I don't know, if you're Native American, you got to get in where you fit in, really. So everybody's clicking up. Everybody's clicking up at Beaumont. It's rough. When I say rough at Beaumont, guys who went to other prisons and then end up going to Beaumont have a hard time fitting in because the way they do time at some other spot and then coming there, Beaumont is all about respect. You will literally get stabbed or die if you disrespect somebody and you don't fix it. It is what it is. But they're going to try you. They're going to see what you're about. Now, I walked in, I had glasses on. I didn't wear them as much, but I had glasses on. No tattoos, no goals, wasn't sagging. And so they're wondering, who is this dude? They're wondering if I was a sex offender or if I was, white collar crime or what have you. And so the first thing I had to do was like, listen, I'm here on white collar crime, but don't test me. Do not test me. I'm not, I'm that person you think I am. I'm not him. And even though I'm not getting ready to fight, I'm ready to fight. You have to be because that first night I'm getting tried. Now, matter of fact, I almost got into it with my cellmate because I'm moving around a little too much for him. He wants to try. I said, man, listen, do you go to bed? Go to bed. I'm not here to mess with you, man. But I promise you, I ain't gonna back down. And he kind of got the picture, but I had to go ahead and get me another cell because this dude, he's just one of them guys that just want to be something that he ain't in prison. Well,
Mm-hmm.
the no, the third night that I was there, we almost had a riot over a poker table. Uh, the Tongos and the blacks over somebody gambling, not paying his bills, and they'll come and tell you, "Hey, put your boots on. Put your boots on." For what? Don't worry about it. Put your boots on. And one guy said, "Listen, I know you're a Christian, you like the Bible and this and that, but listen, if we about to go, you going too, even if you disagree, because I can promise you, he said this, is what he said, when the Mexicans get to swinging on blacks, they're not going to ask you, which one are you? No, so put your boots on when we tell you to, and we'll figure it out later." And so that's kind of how it was. Guys were getting touched up all the time. I mean, there was fighting all the time at Beaumont. Now, when I got sent to Fort Worth, totally different spot. Fort Worth is about as laid back as they get. Beaumont, the opposite. If there was a fight at Fort Worth, it made headlines. Hey, did you hear so and so got in a fight at Beaumont? It'd be newsworthy if there wasn't a fight. It was so many fights there that if you and I got into a fight, we weren't necessarily going to the hole, as long as it wasn't no gang affiliation thing. And even then, if we can squash it, we good. So
Right.
it was just that kind of place. But it taught you. I had to kind of navigate that, and I had to also. Here I am. I'm trying to share the gospel and minister to people in that kind of place, that kind of environment. Guys who have this tension in them, this anger. Some of these guys are talking about these demon slayer guys. I've invited them to come talk to those kind of guys. They won't do it. If they were with them, they would see what somebody with a mean, nasty spirit looks like. Not somebody playing at their church, but one of these guys. And if you come at them the wrong way, you talking about get out, get out, get out. They're gonna knock you out. They're gonna kill you. And
When you
so,
say demon slayer, you're talking about people who be talking about casting out demons? You
yeah,
talking about
yeah,
those folks like that? Okay.
yeah. We had. I was talking to a guy today. I said that I literally had a guy who was scratching and cutting his face up. And when we asked him what's going on, why, he said, because I'm trying to get the demon out. So
Wow.
we took his word. Okay, yeah, you got a demon in you. And trying to minister to those kind of people, it showed me a lot. Now, I've been talking to guys on the street before, but this is a different different kind of guy, right? And so it taught me a lot. I don't. I used to be one of these guys that I want to be. I want to get along just to get along, if at all possibility.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, though, I knew that if a person is to be helped, you got to be truthful with them. Tell
Yeah.
that guy, listen, you are horrible, you are rotten. Now let's work on it. You don't get help if you don't recognize that you need help, which is one reason why a lot of men die sooner than they should, because we wait to the last minute to go to the doctor. We
Yeah, you ain't
refuse to.
lying.
Yeah, we refuse to be sick. I ain't sick, but you got blood coming out your eyeball. Yeah, that I'll just ice it and walk it off, no problem. And so I'm gonna tell you that you're wrong. I'm gonna love you while I'm telling you wrong, and I hope you do the exact same thing for me. You can't be sitting there lying and then thinking that's okay. You can't sit and do this dirty stuff and think it's okay. And so I'll tell you, you tell
Right.
me. And that's kind of, and Beaumont helped to kind of hone that in even more so than before.
I got you. It when you talked about how they tried you the first couple of nights, that made me think back on my first day walking into the prison. Brand new officer. I
Hmm.
had been prior to going to the maximum security section, I was working in the perimeter section for a few months. I'm working on graveyard shift. But I had a little trouble. I had some problems there, and it was a pretty big problem because I couldn't stay awake. I couldn't
Hmm.
stay awake from 11 o'clock to 7 o'clock in the morning with the little 12 by 8 tower that I was sitting in. So they would drive by, the supervisor would drive by, they would shine their flashlights up there, and I'm supposed to shine mine back, letting them know that I'm awake. Man, I don't know how many nights they drove by where I was knocked out. I'm in there just snoring away, falling
Uh,
asleep. It happened one too many times, and they said if it happens too many times, you'll get canned. They'll give you the boot.
yeah.
So I went to the superintendent of the prison and I explained my situation to him. I asked him, basically pleaded the guy for another opportunity. And I told him, I said, I'm willing to work anywhere. I said, I just can't work graveyard shift in that small environment because I keep falling asleep. I said, I'll work GSC. GSC was General Services Complex. That was a maximum security wing in Westville Correctional Center.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wanted to work there. You had units over there called 10 Dorm was Gladiator Dorm. Every time you turn around, like at least once a week, some officer was getting carted out of there from getting his behind whooped. But I said, I was 22, 23 years old. I was like, I just can't afford to lose my job. I was fresh out of the Army, wanted to have a job.
Yeah.
So he said, okay, in 2 weeks, he said, you'll transfer. When you come back to work, he said, in a week, when you come back to work, you'll transfer over to swing shift or evening shift, General Services Complex. So I was like, okay, bet. First day I walked in there, when I walked down during chow time, it's dinner time. One of the COs, one of the corrections officers yells out, fresh meat, talking about me. So I'm like, okay, this is how it's going to be. Then you had two flaming homosexuals, guys dressed up as girls with their little shirt tied up in the front and Kool-Aid as lipstick and eyebrow shadow, looking at me saying, look at him, acting like chicks and all that kind of stuff. I just ignored it. But then when I got into the dining facility, I had an inmate. He would make these subtle remarks. He would walk by me and be like, what the F are you looking at? But he wouldn't look at me directly. He would just make these remarks. So I was like, first I'm like, okay, who's he talking to? But let me back up a little bit. Before we started working in the jail, we went through about a little 4-week academy, and it was a joke. But they kind of train you in how to deal with inmates and stuff like that in the games they play. And they reminded us the fact that these guys got nothing but time to sit around and watch you do their reading, do their studying, research, work out, eat. But they can read you and they know people probably better than any expert could possibly know. Because all they do is sit back and they observe and they manipulate and they con. That's what they do. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to remember that. The guy walks by me again. He says something else. Third time he does it, then I stop him. I said, man, who are you talking to? He's like, what? I said, who are you talking to? Every time you walk by me, you got something to say. You got something to say, you say it to me. Oh, officer, I'm not talking to you. So I was like, bet. And then I thought immediately, yeah, he was trying to test me to see if I just sat back and I said nothing or did nothing, then he would think that he could manipulate me and word would get out. Then I got sent to my first housing unit, which was one of the worst ones. So you had dudes walking around. This was back in the 90s. So we're talking early 90s when they still had, I don't know what it's like in a lot of these, I don't know what it's like in the federal system, but in the state system, they had weights. But years later, they end up taking all the weights out. So you could work out, but you had to do body weight stuff. So you had guys walking around here all jacked up. They could order protein powder and their little beef links and whatnot. So all they did was eat, make their little slams, get their little, almost like a little pizza with their soups and all this kind of stuff, crushed up their bags of Doritos, and they would just sit around, eat, and work out. So they'd walk around, oiled up, walking around all swole, trying to be intimidating, walking by me, yeah, officer, can I get a kite, like a request form? I'm like, here you go. And then they'll kind of sneer at me, and I'm like, you good? Like, you need something else? Nah, man, I'm good. And then but as time went on, they noticed how I responded. So I'm straight out of the military. I'm by the book. And man, them dudes gave me the blues, the straight up blues, because I wasn't playing around. I just, if it's the book said you can get it, you can get it. If it didn't, you can't get it. So I went from being really, really hard. And man, some of them dudes hated me up there. Every time they say, oh, here he come. Mr. Charlie got him, y'all. Like, oh, they was like, oh, hey, Officer Muldrow, can I help you out? Calling me like an Uncle Tom because saying I was sounding out, trying to tap dance for the white man. So that went on for a long time. Man, I remember there was a time I would go to work, I would have straight up headaches. I was just like, man, I got to deal with these knuckleheads again. But then as time went on, I understood that there was a time and place where you really knuckle down on the rules, and there's a time where you can be a little more laid back. So I learned, it's the old saying is you can go from being tough it's easier to go from being hard and tough and disciplined to being a little more lax and a little easier, as opposed to starting off being soft and then turning around and trying to be hard on people. it's harder for them to, it's harder to gain
Yeah.
respect like that. So there was a time and place where I understood that these guys live here, that they're here 24/7. They ain't going home anytime soon. And that there are moments where you got to be by the book 100%. But then there are other times where it's for the betterment of everybody. You kind of be a little easy here and there. When the time for them to lock down is 10 or 11 o'clock at night. If they say they want to be on for, if they're officer, man, the football game's almost over. When we watch it and then we'll lock down?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, go ahead and watch the game, then lock down. Or somebody's on the phone. Officer, can I get 5 more minutes on the phone? All right, you got 5 more minutes, but that's it. I'm serious. Okay. You know, little things like that. Before it was like, no, you're off the phone. 11 o'clock, bam. And that just made things harder for me.
It does.
So then I understood that there was that dynamic of, okay, I got to think about making things easier for both. And like I said, as a young man, that wasn't something I was taught. The military, the Army taught me leadership, but not in this type of environment. So I had to learn how to get somebody, a grown man who's serving 40 years in prison, how do you convince him to make his bed? Like, how do you convince somebody to do that? And then once I started understanding what he does, how what he does impacts everyone else around him as well, I started playing the dynamics. Okay, all right, if somebody pisses you off, use him as a reason why everybody got to get locked down. Say, a reason I'm locking y'all down because, you know, old Joe Smith over here decided he wanted to do whatever. So then they would use some discipline, some peer pressure. They'd be like, man, don't be pissing off Muldrow, man. He's one of the cooler guys we got. Don't make him an enemy.
Oh, yeah.
And then sometimes so I was able to learn a lot of the dynamics of how that whole system worked. So by the time I moved to Las Vegas and started working at the prison, at the county jail in '96, man, that was like a piece of cake compared to what I did. When I worked as a CO in the state prison facility, now you're talking about the county jail where they pay us starting off like twice the salary. Like, we made twice the income that I made there while we were in the academy. And you had more officers, and you had a more secure facility. You had less inmates you were dealing with. I said, man, I can do this literally standing on my head, as opposed to working for that state facility. So, man, just the way, a lot of people don't understand the way it works inside, man. You deal with so many politics and different things.
What people don't realize, I'll never forget this conversation that happened between a CO and another inmate. And this guy was actually a Christian inmate. And the CO was upset with the inmates, and he was talking trash to him, and he was getting ready to punish him and so on and so forth or whatever. And he's like, what sense does it make? Two things. What sense does it make to frustrate an inmate? You do realize that the more frustrated he gets, that frustration is coming out some kind of way. And it might come back out on you. Second thing, you do realize he's getting out one day. He's getting out one day. And so it ain't like you the president where you guys, so don't do that. Treat the man like a man, because there's a whole lot of frustration, and that's kind of the dynamic that you had to work in. And I had this motto that while I was there, I wanted to do something amazing. I had it on my books. You make your little book covers out of paper, what have you, and cover your books up. And so I write on it, do something amazing. Do something amazing. And so the amazing part was, what if God could use me to work in not just my life, but other people's lives, and see something kind of change? What if that could happen? Right. And so when you can go to somebody, see, people think that, and I saw a comment, people think that all I want to do, and it's not, if you look at the channel, it's not, but I don't have a problem with calling out your foolishness. I don't, because literally lives are at stake, including yours. And so people would not, sometimes, you get on somebody for that moment, they don't really appreciate it. But guess who they come to when they're crying, when mama's sick, or their case got denied. Who are they coming to when they need prayer, when they want to hear from the Lord and they don't know how to hear from the Lord? Who do they come to? And so some of y'all don't get it. Some of y'all think that you put this video up, it's just for fun. It really isn't. I promise you, I would much rather not say anything about any false teacher or prophet ever. I really would, but I have to. Just like you as a guard, you would much rather not have to discipline somebody But sometimes you got to, one, for the greater good, because if you
Right.
let this keep going on, somebody's going to get disrespected. Somebody's going to kill somebody, because lives might be literally in the balance, even more so spiritually. And so
Amen.
I don't have a problem telling you, I think you're wrong. Let's be grown men and talk about it. You don't want to, so I'm supposed to shut up. That's not how that works. Because I care about you probably more than you care about yourself, not about your greed, not about your status, not about your fame, your followers, and so forth. I care about the word of the Lord and how it affects you. That's true care. That's true love. And so in prison, I never had a problem. Matter of fact, there's one guy I'll won't say his name, but in the chats, AS, he'll tell you, as a matter of fact, he'll tell you what you see here is what you get in prison. Let me go ahead. If y'all think I'm wrong, AS, you can go ahead and verify. And from time to time, you'll see other guys that I knew in prison that will also show up in the chats. But I come to you because I love you. As a matter of fact, what was funny is our first confrontation was confrontational. Our first meeting but now, hey, we love each other. But and he's the kind of guy that he's going to challenge you, and I challenge him. But I'll be at your house. I'll be at your cell. I'll be there if you need me to. I'm not going to turn you down. If you need somebody to walk with you, or to roll with you, to hug on you and love on you, I don't have a problem with that. But I'm also going to tell you, hey, I think you're wrong, and you can feel free to do the same thing. And men need that. We need that all. I don't care if you are at home with your mom and daddy, if you're at work. We all need that. We all need somebody that's caring enough, loving enough to love on you no matter what. And so in that kind of environment, it taught me a lot. This is why people say, well, why don't you ever get on so and so this way? Why don't you this guy has said this? Why don't you get on him? I'll tell you why. Because I've seen worse than you've seen. I'm not exaggerating, guys. I have seen it for the most part, not always, but for the most part, for the overwhelming majority of folks that I run in contact with, I have seen and dealt with worse than you have. And you know what I found out? A lot of these guys can be awesome tools for the Lord. I've seen men who hated me because I was black. I've seen men who were transgender, who were and by the way, we got a lot there's a lot of transgender people in prison. Y'all don't know that.
Oh yeah.
Men with breasts, hey, that's a hot commodity in prison. But that being stated, I've seen people at their worst, and I've seen what God can do with them. And so I don't give up. That's why I say I do not treat. Hear what I say this again. I do not treat Christians like non-Christians. I'm not going to treat a brother in the Lord like he's a wolf. Now, I'll give you an opportunity to prove to me that you're a wolf. And once that's the case, now you got to prove that you're not a wolf. And so, like they say, well, why don't you get on this guy or that guy? Because he's a brother in the Lord, as far as I know. And so I am not going to treat a brother who isn't at the level I think he should be at, because I don't want him to treat me because I'm not at the level he think I should be at. I'm not going to treat him like he's a castaway. There are a lot of men that the Lord will let us know they are redeemable, that the Lord still has use for them. And so I'm never giving up on a person who wants to place their faith in Christ. In prison, this is funny. This is true story. At Beaumont, before I left Beaumont, we had a big issue there. They started sending more and more sex offenders to Beaumont. There's two things you don't want to be in prison. Depends on the prison that you go to. Two things you don't want to be. You don't want to be a snitch, and you don't want to be a sex offender.
Not
They
at all.
treat you like, now, a snitch can hide, right? Because he's not walking around with an S on his chest for snitch. But sex offenders, everybody seems to know at least the white ones. The black ones and Hispanic ones, they do a better job of hiding also. But I had in my mind, since the Muslims, by the way, if you're a sex offender and you become a Muslim, they can't touch you. If you're a snitch and you become a Muslim, they can't touch you. As long as you take your shahada and your prayer and then get your rug and your hat, I call it, you're off limits. That's how. I don't care if you level 4, if you at the USP, the medium, the low, you off limits. So my thought was, wait a second, hold up. How come we don't do the same thing with the Christians on the yard? And so at Beaumont, I was the guy that was kind of the speaker for the Christians, me and this guy named Laxey. And I said, from now on, y'all gonna leave these sex offenders alone. The ones that are Christian. Now, the ones that ain't, I don't know what to tell you. But the ones that have said that they're Christian, they come to church or whatever, then I said, treat them like they want like they're one of us. Now, in prison, when you say treat them like they're with us or one of us, that means you got to treat them like they black. Why is that important? Well, because if anybody white or Hispanic wants to mess with them, you're not messing with a sex offender now. Now you're messing with somebody that ride with the blacks.
Right.
A lot of, now the blacks, we didn't treat the sex offenders as bad as the whites or the Hispanics would do. For
Right.
some reason in prison, you probably seen this.
Oh yeah.
The leftovers of the people, the outcasts or whatever, get dumped onto the blacks in prison. No big deal. And the reason why a lot of blacks didn't mind, because when come time to fight, we have more numbers, or you know what I'm saying. You got more part of the crew. So anyway, it was happening that for some reason the ABs were just really pushing on the sex offenders just real hard. Now the
ABs, they talking about the Aryan brothers, or
Aryan
what are you
Brothers.
talking about? Okay.
And so I'm over at the chapel. The chaplain, one of the chaplains, is real good friends with SIS. Those are like the investigative officers inside the prison.
Okay.
They can shut it down if they want to, and you don't want to be under their investigation. So anyway, he called me in the office and he was talking to Miss, I forgot her name, but she was over SIS. He said, "What's going on with the with the guys messing with sex offenders?" I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, I got. He showed me all these letters. He got these sex offenders asking him to do something. They feel threatened. I said, well, I didn't know. And so he she's talking to me. She said, "Well, listen, I'm about to come through here and tear the whole yard up." We had gone through a good season of peace. No real, not a whole lot of problems. Things were good. We didn't want that. So I called a meeting on the yard with me and all the white gangs, the Aryan Brotherhoods, the Dirty White Boys, the Woods, and so forth, even Independents. I
Mm-hmm.
said, "Y'all, this is what it is." I said, "You ain't got to have them in your TV room, at your TV, on your side of the chow hall or what have you. That's fine, but don't go out of your way to mess with them, or else they coming through." And one guy got a little fly with me. He said, "Well, if you know who says something, you don't tell us. That's just like you saying." And I said, "Hold on, listen. First of all, watching you threaten. Number one. Number two, I said, look, because what happened was a lot of the Crips and Bloods wanted to get on them because they felt like they were trying to run it. So sometimes you got to. I'm using a little bit of the politics with me. I
Right.
said, these Crips and Bloods, they looking to get up on you. So make a move you want to. I know it's 10 of y'all right here, but it ain't.
Right.
But it's more than 10 to me." And so I said, "Just look," and the blacks, they were just sitting around, just looking, waiting to see what was going to happen. And the guy that was running his mouth, he got real quiet. I said, "Listen, you do you, let them do them. You ain't got to invite them to eat with you, but just leave them alone. Treat them the same way you treat the Muslims. Don't disrespect Christians like that. All right, they with us. But they ain't right. Fine, you ain't either. We ain't either. That's why they sent us all to the exact same. They sent me and you to the same place they sent them. So if they're sick, what does the government think about us? Same thing. So leave them
Mm,
alone."
that's
Well,
good.
what happened was they said, "Okay, fine." Matter of fact, some of the white guys like, "Man, I'm glad you told us because we don't want to get the place get jacked up." Well, they started pushing on him again, and so he called me back in the office, and she's there. I said, "Listen, I don't speak for all these people in the yard. So if you want to go through and tear the place up, do what you got to do. But everybody else, the Mexican guys are leaving alone, the Tongos are leaving alone, all the blacks are leaving alone." And so they got this thing called diesel therapy. Diesel therapy in the feds, because you got all kind of joints all over the feds. Diesel
Right.
therapy is when they want to ship you from one spot to another spot, but it's going to take you, I don't know, what would be like the children of Israel. What would be a four?
40 years.
Yeah, they're on that bus going from one spot to the next spot. One guy he went from Beaumont to what's the place in Louisiana? I can't think of the name of the place in Louisiana. Um, but it's only
I
about
don't
two
know.
hours away, 2-3 hours away from Beaumont. Took that man 8 months to get there.
Oh,
Took him
what?
8 months to get there. And when he got there, guess who his cellmate was? A sex offender. He,
Oh,
he
man.
said, he wrote a letter back to his homeboy. He said, "If anybody dream of messing with this chomo, I'm going to kill him." That's what they call him in prison. They call him sex offender chomo. He said, "If anybody mess with him, I'm going to kill him." He learned his lesson. And
Right.
so, and so you got all this little crazy stuff, all this tension. Somebody's mama dies. Somebody's kid is sick. What's that man going to feel like? He can't do, he feels powerless. And
Mm-hmm.
they not handling his paperwork right or what have you. He ain't getting all the good time that he think he ought to get. All this stuff like that. The food is
Appeals,
horrible.
all this kind of stuff.
It's everything happening. Here it
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
the dead of winter, and the heating the hot water goes out. You go to Chow, they got cereal, but the cereal they don't give you spoon, they give you forks. It's like just these little stupid things they would do to you and make you
right.
more frustrated. Now somebody got to go back there and minister to them, and so it teaches you a lot. And so I mean what I say in terms of listen, I'm gonna call you out, but I do love you. I do. I promise you, I love you. But by the same token, we're not going to treat Jesus or His word. We're not going to treat Him as though He's some cheap thing. We're going to honor and respect Him. And if you say that's what you're about, then let's be about that.
I
Let's
heard
hold
that,
each
man.
other accountable and let's
Two,
talk.
hey,
I'm always willing to talk with you.
right. Man, this conversation's been going really good, man. Two questions, man, because I want to give you, I want to make sure, because I know you over here had a long day. You got a lot going on tomorrow. You're trying to relax and whatnot. So I got two questions. They're probably a little involved, but two more questions for you. Now, we all know, just listening to what you shared with us today and some of my own experiences, we know that a lot of foolishness goes on in the prison system.
Hmm.
How hard would you say it is to live out the Christian life while locked up? Would you say it's more difficult on the inside or on the outside?
It can be difficult. It can be more difficult, but it could also be easier.
Mm-hmm.
Here's why it can be difficult because one, especially depending upon where you are, there are some people that are looking at you. In prison, everybody's watching you.
Right.
Everybody is watching you. So there's nothing that you can do that you can get away with. And so if you're out there messing with the other boys, they'll know, hey, your Christian brother, he down there with the that happened too.
Oh,
Or
I've seen that too.
he's gambling. Yeah, all that stuff happening. So they see that. Well, the true you is gonna come out in prison. Now, but because you're in prison, you've got more opportunity to kind of try to get it right. So that's the easier part because out here, you guys that are sitting there watching, you all could have a porn app open right now and nobody would know.
Mm.
Not in prison. There's always there somebody to hold you accountable. You guys can cuss somebody out who is not a Christian or you don't know, and there's nobody to hold you accountable. In prison, yes, there is. Matter of fact, do you know who's going to hold you accountable more so than anybody else? The non-Christians, the Muslims, the Buddhists, the atheists. Hey, Christian
Right.
brother, you think it was right for you to yell at that guy? Matter of fact, they go above and beyond. They listen. I asked you for your chicken. Shouldn't you? If any man asks you, shouldn't you give it? They gonna just try to treat you like you some kind of sissy or
Twist,
punk or whatever. Yeah,
twist the scriptures,
yeah.
all that stuff.
And so they make it hard, but they also keep you on your toes. But whoever you really are, you're going to find out if you are really a true believer. You become a stronger believer because everything that you can possibly think of that God will ever use to grow you in your walk, you're going to find it in prison.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that you can think of, whatever you've been asking God for to help you to grow your walk, we have that in prison. We have it in prison.
Right.
And when the lights turn off and you need some quiet time, some time to cry, the lights go off because weird guys get underneath those covers or turn over and they go to crying. They get up like, man, why your eyes red? Oh man, no, it's cold in the room. Okay. So we have that. It's difficult, but if you just give it over to God, if you make up your mind, you know what, I am going to live the life that I should have been living. I'm going to live it. People think that people in the Bible were just pristine. When you look at somebody like a Joseph, Joseph was not an innocent person when he was sold in the captivity. Now, he wasn't in the sense that he had issues. Joseph was
Yeah.
an arrogant, prideful person. He's sitting there bragging to his brothers. Like, wait a second, Joseph. First of all, Joseph wasn't very wise. But then again, he was young. That makes sense. But what
Mm-hmm.
did God do to him? God taught him some things. Everybody that is every man in the Bible learned something. They had to overcome whatever their shortfalls were. Now, sometimes we have the benefit of seeing it, sometimes we don't. We know that Paul was a proud person. Paul talks about his pride. As a matter of
Right.
fact, it comes out in his writing. Matter of fact, Paul gets so slick with his pride and his boastfulness. He says, "I ain't gonna boast no more. I'm through being proud and arrogant." But what I will boast about is this. And he said, I could talk to you about how I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this. It's almost like he's
Yes.
just humble bragging. But what I will boast on is that. So his arrogance does come out. And then he says, the reason why I was given this thorn in the flesh is because I know of a man who some time ago was called up to the third heaven. And so to keep
Mhm.
me from exalting myself, because I got a little bit of arrogance and a little bit of pride in me. Let me go ahead. God gives me this. And when I pray to have it taken away, what does God say? Shut up, Paul. That's me paraphrasing, but he says, my grace is
Right.
sufficient. And so we all have a process that we have to go through. And I say it this way to all the guys in prison, um, whatever it is you are going to be, um, God has equipped you, or at least will equip you to be that. Can you think about this? If you were to just draw out what kind of man you want to be, or what kind of woman, don't you all want to be somebody that has the ability to overcome adversity? Now, we don't want to overcome adversity while going through it. Nobody wants that. But to
Right.
be the kind of person that can go through it, don't we all want to be, especially men, the hero? Well, heroes go through stuff and deal with stuff. And so I made up my mind, I'm going to be the kind of person that can go through that and not bat an eye. That's what I want to be. I want to be the kind of person that God can develop to have some good character, but also trusting enough to where I won't flinch when the walls are coming in. And so when they denied my case and when mama passed away and when they sent me in the shoe and they shipped me to a different place, God, I'm still with you. I'm not going to waver. If you talk about
Amen.
me, okay, listen, you can call me every name in the book. Won't bother me at all. And so that's the kind of man I want to be. And thankfully, God used prison to do just that for me, to develop me. I think now, am I there? No, I got some ways to go, but I'm a lot better than I was before I went to prison. That part is for sure.
Amen. Uh, so we during your while you're doing your shows, while you're having some of your live videos, I noticed you love to really dissect the text. You love to discuss the Greek and the Hebrew.
Hmm.
So clearly, you went to seminary. Was that something you went through while you were locked up?
No, no, no. Well, okay. I had started. I started in seminary. I still have to finish. Um,
Okay.
I haven't had the time just yet. Now I'm supposed to go back and finish. Hopefully, back in the summer. But I've always wanted to be a person that I know what I'm speaking about. I
Hmm.
didn't want to be when I was a managing principal of the investment firm, and so if I got up to speak, I wanted to be able to know what it was that I'm saying. Can you imagine me giving a seminar? Because I would give seminars at different places. We had radio broadcasts and so on the radio saying something. It's
Yeah.
like, that's not true. So you have to make sure that you know what you're talking about. Not to be right, but just to understand the environment. And so if I'm talking about investments, I don't determine which way the market is going. I don't determine which way this particular stock or this portfolio should behave. No, I want to be able to see the lay of the land, what's happening economically, geopolitically, and so forth. How is this going to affect? There's a war going on over here. How is this going to
Hmm.
affect this particular um, agriculture issue that we use? Let's say for oil. We need oil. There's a war going over here. How's it going to affect the price of oil? We need oil to ship and transport these goods and services. What is that going to do to the market? Those kind of things. And so I wanted just to be able to understand what was happening. Well, that same thing is needed when you're looking at the Bible. The Bible wasn't put together to please me or to make me feel good. It's a reflection of what actually happened. And so we're looking at how things were from 1,000 feet above, but also from on the ground. And one of the things that one of my former pastors told me was, he said, Corey, you need to study some more. Not because I was off, but he says, I think that seminary and especially learning the languages would benefit you. Well,
Hmm.
I always said I can't do that. I don't have time. With ministry, with family, and with the business, I don't have time. Now he said, I think he was hinting that I need to get rid of the business. No, God gave me that business. Of course, He didn't give me that business. So when I get to prison, they had in the library, they had this it's a Hebrew this Hebrew book. I wanted to learn, but I didn't have the money to buy the books and stuff like, but they had a Hebrew book there, and they had some Jews on the compound that could help me. And so I went and checked the book out. And what the funny thing was, When I checked this book out, I didn't. I kept that book for, I don't know how long I kept that book. I say I would go back. I said, Pastor, Pastor Chaplain, I stole this book right here, right? Wasn't no big deal. I didn't really steal the book, but I had the book in my possession just so I can just learn this thing and learn this thing and learn this thing. Finally, someone actually bought me a Hebrew book, and so I was just engrossed in it, just trying to learn this stuff. But then we had a chaplain who was an actual, honest to goodness Greek scholar. He wants to become a pastor. As a matter of fact, I hope to get him on in the next month or two. But he wants to become a pastor, but he cuts his teeth at prison being a chaplain. He wants to minister to the lowest on the totem pole, so to speak.
Right.
If he can minister to inmates, then he said it would be easier to minister to people out in the world, which I think is true. Well, he's a Greek scholar. I got this book back here by Daniel Wallace. He is a compadre of Daniel Wallace's. They've even wrote a book together called Revisiting the Corruption of the Greek New Testament. The man is excellent when it comes to Greek.
Who is it?
His name is J. Wright, Brian
Okay.
J. Wright, and he is, when it comes to Greek, he's just excellent with it. He is. I would bring him on, and then I wouldn't even say anything in the Greek because out of fear of me saying it the wrong way. He's just that good. But he just got me even more into learning the Greek. And you don't learn Hebrew and Greek just for the sake of learning Hebrew and Greek. You want to apply it. So when you look at a passage and someone says something, like, wait a second, that's not really what that passage means. I can't have a conversation with someone. First of all, no one speaks Koine Greek and no one speaks Biblical Hebrew. But if someone were to really start speaking, those languages are kind of out of fashion. There's modern Hebrew and modern Greek. But if someone were to go speaking it, I couldn't. Okay, what is it? Slow down a little bit. I can't catch what you're saying. But if it's written, I can read it. Okay, all right, I get that. Oh, I see what he's trying to say here. And so a lot of times when folks say things, and I go back and look at the Hebrew and Greek, because again, and folks get bothered by this, which I think is just silly. What it really is people's insecurities come up when you indicate, or they know that you might know Hebrew or Greek. It bothers them. Why? I don't know why. Because the Bible, sovereignly, God gave us the Bible in Hebrew and in Greek, and with a smattering of Aramaic. And so if I look at the passage in the language that God gave it to us in, he didn't give it to us in English. I know somebody's going to be bothered, but he did not give it to us in English. Someone who understood Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek translated into English. And so, but now we've got these different translations. Well, what's the best word? What's the correct word? What's a more, here's a bad way of saying it, but so you all can understand what I'm saying. What's a more better way of saying this Greek word in English? Or a more better way of saying this Hebrew word in English? Since languages change, today, if I say something is cool, that's if I say it's cool, what do I mean? Just the term it's cool. Well, are you talking about something is great or the temperature, right? Or what is fine? Am I talking about something that I owe? Grains of sand?
Right.
The way this person looks? So that's the problem that we have with languages, and so we're constantly trying to find the better way of understanding one of these Hebrew, Aramaic, or Greek words. So that's why I do so. That's why somebody said Dr. Michael Brown speaks fluent Hebrew and Greek, but he's flaky. Yeah, because sometimes what happens is uh, just because you know the languages doesn't mean that your your theology is correct. Because sometimes we interpret the languages in light of our theology. If I'm charismatic, then I'll see everything in a charismatic lens. If I am Calvinist, I'll see things from a Calvinistic lens. If I am Armenian or dispensational, I'll see things through that lens. The point of the languages is to try to get rid of some of that. And when you have a conversation with someone else who knows the languages, then it's kind of hard for your theology to come through when they say, wait a second, but this word means that. How can it mean that if it literally says this? And so that's the cool part about languages. And so being in prison afforded me the time to spend time to learn that, to learn church history, to understand how the Bible is put together, how it's laid out, the the chronological order and what's happening, who God is talking to. It literally, guys, is just like you're watching a movie. How God is unfolding this stuff. It's really amazing, and everything just really fits perfectly together. So
Amen.
that was my
So you
short
did
answer.
how? So you did overall. You did how many years in the federal system?
I did
And then I
13
have one more
wonderful,
question after that.
wonderful, glorious years.
13 years. All right.
Mhm.
So, which leads me into our final question. What was the transition like back to the real world? That's
Huh.
something people talk about, but at the same time, you know, a lot of people don't really go into a lot of detail. What was that like, man? How difficult was it to adjust?
It wasn't difficult. It was just a lot of reacclimation. When I got out, first of all, the roads had changed. There's a whole lot more people out here driving. There's a lot more technology. When whereas I don't have it here. When I got out, I wanted to have my MP3 player because that's what we had in prison. That's how I'm gonna listen to my I'm working out, right? And so when I work out, I gotta have my music in me. By the way, guys, and my son-in-law gets a kick out of this. He gets it, and my wife does too. When I work out, I'm not listening to gospel. Can't do it. Can't do it. Don't put no slow music on. No. I need some rough thug music on. Right? I'm fighting with the bar. See, our workout car, we do CrossFit. And
Yeah.
listen, you want to just stop. So I got to get mad at something. And so I don't listen to it. Other than that, it's like somebody introduced me. Sorry, y'all. I didn't even say who this. Introduced me to some songs, and it's it's talking about beating somebody up, fighting whatever calling
Oh
somebody
my
out. Well, on the weight pile in prison, everybody is talking trash to each other. Everybody, you ain't nothing, you this and that with it, right? And so it's like a competition. Well, I'm one of these guys that when you say I can't do it, I'm gonna do it. And so the music in my ears got me going. Got me what? What'd you say? so so much so. This is funny. You'll like this as you work out. Listen, guys. There's some big strong dudes in prison. There's some
Oh
guys
yeah.
you don't want them to hit you. I
World
can
record
promise.
level lifts.
Yeah, y'all talk about these guys in the NFL where they can bench. There's some guys in prison. We got one guy. He 180 pounds and he bench pressing 525 and nobody spot him. No break. He just breaks it himself. Holds it. This is what you want, and then push it back up. So
Wow.
I go to the yard. I get sent to Seagoville. No, I don't listen. I don't listen to NWA. But I'm not gonna lie. Is there some profanity in my workout list? Yeah, there's a little bit. Y'all forgive me. But it gets me through. But I go to this guy, Big Red. I actually call him Dirty Red. Dude is strong. And so I need some motivation. And so I go stand over him while he's benching. He look at me like, "What's up?" I said, I'm trying to figure out what you." He said, "What? What's wrong?" I don't know this guy. I said, "I'm trying to figure out why in the world. What's going on with you, man? Are you serious?" He said, "What you talking about?" I shake my hand and walk away. He said, "What's going on, homie?" Well, he called me School, because I'm older than him. "What's going on, School?" I said, "Man, I don't even know you. I'm ashamed of you. You listen. You like being strong, but you like being fat at the same time. What? I'm talking trash to him too. He don't even know me. I
Wow.
said, I'm looking at your form. You got some muscle, but I don't know who you trying to impress." And so we become real good friends. Cause like, are you serious? This dude talking trash. And I said, "What you over there laughing at? You ain't doing nothing either." And so that's kind of me. I go on the
Right.
weight pile. I'm throwing a bomb at everybody. Cause man, we gonna work out, y'all. We gonna work out because the TV room in prison is a place where a lot of fights start, but also the weight pile because guys get disrespected. But if we all there together, I want us to be harmonious. We working together. Hey, you using them dumbbells? Let me get. Oh no problem, Court. So I kind of want a little family atmosphere there, right? I'm the
Yeah.
guy that's gonna get everybody. We all working out together, right? And so anyway, uh, the transition coming back home was
Mm-hmm.
how am I going to do my prison workout? I need an MP3 player. My wife is trying to convince me, no, you don't need an MP3 player. Woman, you don't know what you're talking about. I need an MP3. Baby, nobody uses MP3. You don't know what you're talking about. I get home. I don't need an MP3 player because I don't know technology. I don't know the streaming services. I don't know the internet. When I left, everybody had cable. Now ain't nobody got cable, right?
Right.
Everything. So that part is one thing. The clothes that you guys wear, I should go back to prison because you guys are horrible with your style. The boys dress like girls, the girls dress like
Mm,
boys, and is
right.
I don't listen, y'all. I went to prison, and y'all lost your mind. But also something else. I've noticed the attitude of people is just a little bit more sensitive now.
A
In
little
prison,
bit.
you, now you know Eric. In prison, if you got a sensitive attitude, then you somebody's girlfriend.
Hmm.
That's not working. You are literally, and they got guys that literally clean other guys' underwear. They do have that, right? And so that's what you are if you that sensitive. But anyway, that part, okay, just readjusting the things that I didn't see. But as far as everything else, I didn't really have to really readjust. My wife or kids would ask me, "What do you want for dinner?" Don't matter to me. What? Because again, for 13 years, I go to Chow Hall and you tell me what you're feeding me instead of me saying what I want. You know,
Right.
and I didn't even. It wasn't even uh, questionable whether it's going to be good or bad. If it's good, amen. God bless us. If it's bad, well, that's what we expect. It just is
Right.
what it is. And so acclimating wasn't the problem, but there are some guys, though, who do have it. Why? Because in prison, your time is regimented. You have a routine. You get up at this time because we have moves on the yard. So we go from 8:30 to 9:30, from 9:30 to 10:30, 10:30, 11:30. Then we go back to the house. And then everybody goes, different units go for child. Then from 12:30 to 1:30, 1:30. So everything's kind of segmented. And really,
Mm,
they're small segments in really three segments. The segment before lunch, between lunch and dinner, and then after dinner to yard recall, right? And so you're used to that routine. Guys come back home from prison, they don't understand because they've been for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, they had a routine. Now I don't, and I don't know what to do. 10 o'clock or 9:30, wherever you are, I got count time. 4 o'clock, count time. It's 4 o'clock. This was funny. When I first got home, 4 o'clock came, I was ready to get counted. I was ready to get counted. Um, I wear my house shoes all over the house now. I don't walk on my own floor. I don't walk barefoot on my own floor. That's a prison thing, right?
yep.
We wear shower shoes. Now I don't wear shower shoes in my own shower. I haven't got that part. Y'all forgive me when guys use the bathroom. They're constantly flushing, constantly flushing. So what am I doing at home? Running my water bill up. Some things am I institutionalized? There are some things that I do have some institutionalization in me, but I'm not as we say burnt up. I'm not messed up like that though. But I didn't have too big of a readjustment. I guess because I've been focusing more on my kids, my grandbabies, my wife, and my kids, and so that kind of helped out. So
Right. Right. All right, Corey. So for those who might be on here watching and they're following my content and they love the conversation that we have, where can people get a hold of you?
you can get a hold to me anywhere on YouTube. I'm all over YouTube. I'm on everybody's channel. I'm on. No, I'm kidding. You can go to the Smart
I didn't
Christian
see you on
channel.
Joe Rogan, so hey,
I'll
you
be
ain't
there
everywhere.
next. I'll be there next. No, I'm kidding. Smart Christian channel. And I would say also for you guys that are on my channel listening, please do me a favor. Go to Code Red Conversations and subscribe. Now, what he's done, and some of you guys would appreciate it, a lot of times what he has done, I know you said you kind of moving in a little bit different direction or adding some things, but he
Yeah,
would
adding some
discuss.
things. I'm still going to be dealing with the police related matters, but yeah, I'm going to be adding some more content, more on the lines of like a more of a biblical worldview issue. But
Yeah, y'all. That's how I first found him. Though I forgot what was happening. What was the case? Because there was like 5, 6, 7 things happening when I first discovered your channel. I know one of
right.
them was the little 13-year-old girl that was getting ready to stab another kid, and the cop shot her.
Mm,
And you covered that, and some other stuff. And so I was like, man, this guy, and he's not pro police or anti police. He's not pro person. He's just straight with it from his viewpoint and from a godly man's standpoint of view. So y'all make sure that y'all go over to if you don't have it. Matter of fact, it's playing right now. I'm looking at my channel over here and then your channel here. But go to Code Red Conversation. Or what do you say that it's a? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the title. But Code Red Conversations, guys, don't just go look at it, but go subscribe Support this brother. We need more godly men out there like that. And that is, if Seiko's watching, here's a bald head brother that doesn't mind showing the bald head.
Not at all. Proud,
Yes.
proudly display it. All that, all in all of its glory, big
Yes.
as it is. But brother, man, I definitely appreciate you, us doing this, working together, us being on each other's channels. Man, once again, your content has been a blessing to me. Continue doing what you're doing, being used to the glory of God. It's wild the journey that we can be on, that the Lord could take us on. The
Yes.
fact that you went through everything that you went through to be here at this time doing what you're doing and being able to have such a good your reach is growing and being able to have such a large impact. That's truly a blessing, man. Just continue to be allow the Lord to use you.
Yeah, thank you. By the way, let me say this also too. If I hadn't said it, guys, you're going to notice something probably in the next. I think the next week. I think we're ready to start rolling some things out in the next week about the channel. I told you all before, you'll see a little bit of an uptick in the amount of times that we may say or call out someone's bad teaching or something like that. A little bit more than normal. We're still about 80% of the channel is on teaching stuff. The reason being because you're also going to notice about another 100, 200 videos are going to be deleted because of video quality or audio quality. So they'll be done all over again, and you're going to see a whole new setup. And so you all be on the lookout for that. I personally think that you all are going to enjoy the channel even more so. Things will be a little bit better. But now I'm going to come to you guys in a little bit now. So I want you all to do me this favor, and this is why I'm saying this now. You can't send it to me just yet. In the next couple of days, I'll give you where to send it to, but I want you guys to on your own, just jot down a good church. I don't care if it's one church or 20 churches, a good church, the name of the church, and if you could also provide if they have a website link, that as well, because people all over the country are looking for good churches to go to, and so I want to make sure that on the website that they'll have access to go and check out a good church. And so this little church search that we'll have also on the website will be there. But I don't know all the churches, but you guys who are smart Christians, you do. We don't know what kind of scandals going on, so we can't say that. But as far as we know, it's a good church, good sound doctrine. The pastor's not trying to be a diva and so forth. And so I'm going to come to you in the next few days, guys. You'll see a post asking you to submit the names of very good churches as well as pastors. And oh, by the way, on the website, there are going to be teachings, not from just me. There are going to be teachings from a lot of other people. I'm also going to come and ask you guys for help, support. Meaning if you got books that you want to help so that we can send into prisons and the folks that would like to have to be able to study some things more in depth. They don't have either the economic resources to do so, or just because they're locked up in many cases, the ability to do so, as well as sending out Bibles to people, not just in prison, but in other parts of the globe as well. And so we're going to be asking for your support for that. That's the reason why folks say, hey, can I buy this shirt? Can I get that? The reason why is because it wasn't set up. I don't want to just sell t-shirts for the sake of selling t-shirts. I could do that, but I don't want to do that. I want to actually go somewhere. And so we're going to use you guys to help further the mission of the kingdom. So I just want to put that out there before I said Elevation Church. We're going to send some Bibles to Elevation Church. Amen.
Amen.
That's what we're going to do, Senior Conrad. So anyway, I want to thank you all so much as well. Eric, thank you for this was wonderful. I can't get this thing to move. Let me go over here. Okay, there it is. I was trying to get Senior Conrad off the screen. Too much of him. So, but anyway, thank you guys. Eric, is there anything that you want to say on the way out?
No, that's it, y'all. Just continue to support Corey and what he's doing. And yeah, come on over, y'all. I hadn't been putting out content as of late, but I've been recording videos over the last couple of weeks. So I have probably a good 6 videos that'll be going up here very shortly. Long form interviews, conversations, discussions with people addressing issues such as critical race theory, socialism, how we know how can we know that we can trust the Bible, apologetic topics. So we're going to be discussing a whole host of things. And plus I have more content coming out with some of the more recent incidents going on as well, the more recent shootings and police-related events. So stay tuned for that. They should be coming out very soon. But that's it. That's it. I appreciate it. Again, brother, I appreciate you giving me this opportunity.
No problem. Listen, I'd be wrong if we didn't end with the wonderful intro outro that we have as I might be wrong. I'm biased, but I think it's the best intro outro on YouTube. So all you guys be blessed, and we shall see you tomorrow. Amen. Amen.
Peace.